Hello, my name's Kathy Bissell. This is the Golf Show 2.0. Everything's getting smarter these days, and now we have smart balls and smart courses. Gary, would you introduce our guest?
Well, you're wrong, Kathy. I'm not getting smarter, so everything is not getting smarter. Today, we're going to talk about the smart golf ball. We've got Keith Blakely, who's the czar of OnCore Golf. That's probably not his official title, but I like czar better. You've got a smart ball and a smart course, and you've already got a whole lineup of pretty good golf balls at OnCore. Keith, tell us about this smart golf ball and what's behind it and what it's for.
Sure. So over 5 years ago, Gary, you may remember we had a hollow metal core golf ball in the market, and it was fairly unique. It was a ball that was designed primarily to keep driver shots in the fairway by creating some perimeter weighting. And although the ball did exactly what it was designed to do, it suffered from a couple of performance challenges. And so ultimately we went away from that. But what happened was a number of people that saw that said, hey, I lose a lot of golf balls. Could you put a GPS chip inside that steel core? Now, I won't bore you with the reason that the physics of doing that makes no sense whatsoever, but basically you're putting a Faraday cage around something that's trying to communicate with a satellite, and that just isn't going to work. But it did get us thinking about the idea of protecting electronics inside a golf ball that might be helpful initially just for locational purposes. As we started to work on it, we realized that there was a lot more that we could wind up doing. In fact, we patented some protective material shells that were non-metallic that allowed us to start thinking, I'll say, a little more expansively about the potential of really embedding almost any kind of sensor technology that was obviously small enough and would keep us within the weight limit of a golf ball. And so that kind of kicked off what we call the Genius Ball project, and eventually led to the product that we're getting ready to introduce right now, which has some amazing capabilities. It's got what we call MEMS, microelectromechanical system based sensors, accelerometers, gyroscopes, magnetometers. It includes a rechargeable battery, a Bluetooth. Sorry for the noise. We're down the street.
The police are after you.
I think Titleist might have called the police on you, Keith.
It's a fire station, actually, that's about 3 blocks away from our offices.
Well, that's good.
And that's about an every 30-minute occurrence. In any case, it includes the battery, which also has wireless recharging capability. So one of the advantages, clearly, to having a smart ball that you can recharge is that you can use it more than the 3-4 hours that a typical primary battery is useful. And it's got Bluetooth communication gear on it, so that all of the measurements, all of the data that's being generated from these various MEMS sensors is communicated to a nearby smart device. The interesting thing about that, of course, is that you can distinguish pretty easily the difference between someone tossing a ball, rolling a ball, versus hitting it with a golf club of any size. So it allows you to differentiate how the ball is moving in a way that permits auto scoring, which it turns out is much more interesting to people than I would have expected.
Keith, do you get better and/or different data from the sensors inside a ball when it's hit versus a really sophisticated launch monitor?
So you're hitting on what is, I think, probably the most critical aspect of the development program, and part of the reason that it has taken as long as it has, Gary. If you had a ball that could give you all the data in the world, but every time you hit it, it performed differently than the ball you're used to playing on course, what value is that data? I mean, essentially, it's not, unless you're just playing games, right? Okay, so I can see how far it went and I can bet against my friends, but if it's going 100 yards, I'm not going to play a round of golf with it if it doesn't if it isn't balanced properly and it doesn't putt straight, all of the data in the world is meaningless. So part of, I think, OnCore's unique differentiation as we launch this ball isn't so much that we're, brilliant component and circuit designers, as much as you mentioned at the intro, we're really good golf ball designers. And so taking the combination of this brain, as I call it, and being able to create layers around that brain that mimic the performance when the whole ball is put together and put on a tee or on a green or in the fairway and hit, that makes it virtually indistinguishable from a conventional golf ball. That's the trick. And so then the data that's coming from that is, in fact, as far as ball movement is concerned, as good as any launch monitor. And I would argue it's better because it's a direct measurement. As you know, launch monitors are extrapolating what the ball is doing based on either optical camera-based systems or Doppler radar. And so they see certain things and they calculate what they think spin rate, spin axis, velocity, and so forth is. And not to diminish how accurate a lot of them are. They're very good. But when the ball is actually measuring its own spin rate, spin axis, launch angle, trajectory, apex, carry, the whole bit, there's no argument. It is measuring what exactly is going on with the ball. So as long as the ball's size, weight, symmetry, and other characteristics are mimicking very closely that of a dumb ball, so to speak, it's meaningful data, right? And it's useful from an instructional standpoint. It's useful from a gamification standpoint, from personal challenges, from training, all kinds of different things. So we're really excited about what we're going to be bringing into the market.
Well, it's funny, that would be really useful. There's some great simulators out there, but I play in a golf league on a certain brand I won't mention, and it's supposedly great, but you hit a shot, you hit it pretty good, and it goes down, and I don't know if it's just not figuring out the curve right away, but it goes down the fairway, and all of a sudden it takes a right turn, completely unnatural, and you're going, hey, talk about a dumb ball. No, but it doesn't seem right. And I think that's what you're talking about, where the monitor is extrapolating, and
correct.
Maybe it's not getting it fast enough, but I would like to see that would be a factor for simulators. I think that could really improve them.
Yeah.
Can you, before we go further, can you explain what a Faraday cage is for people who haven't been doing electrical experiments?
That's where you lock up David Faraday because he's out of his mind. Am I right? Am I right, Keith?
Close.
Okay.
Basically, it's just a metallic enclosure that interferes with the electromagnetic signals that are being delivered or trying to be delivered. So you're just blocking. It's like putting a shield around the antenna that a GPS uses, and therefore it can't see the satellite. So there's no GPS. It's interesting because when you gather all of the data that this ball is generating, the physics calculations now allow you to create I'll say a virtual path that you expect the ball to be taking, right? Okay. Based on velocity, launch angle, spin rate, and spin axis. So there's a lot that you can extrapolate and get someone directed towards where their ball should wind up. But until you get within that Bluetooth range, there's not really anything that guarantees the exact location until we get and talk about what this ball can do in combination with other technology. And that's where this whole smart course concept came into being. We wanted to not just get people close to where their ball was, but we wanted to actually be able to triangulate the precise location of a golf ball using the antenna that's in that ball. And the way you do that is, again, whether it's through what's called a wireless mesh network or a Bluetooth coded PHY mesh network, which basically are a series of devices planted around the perimeter of a golf course that allow you to measure the distance from each one to the ball. And then based on, again, 2 measurements, 3 measurements, you can pretty much come within a few inches of knowing precisely where the ball landed.
Like the old 150-yard stakes. You'd think of staking things out as you went down the golf course.
Right. And so if you think about that, what becomes interesting is, at least if I'm a golf course operator, if the people who are playing these golf balls in that environment know exactly where to go to find their ball, whether it's in the rough or not, pace of play is something that's going to be positively impacted. And although that may not matter a whole lot to really good golfers who keep most of their balls in play, you know, most golf courses tend to have pace of play issues because they just can't get enough.
No one talks about looking for lost balls. I'm convinced is the number 1 cause of slow play. Well, number 2 behind bad play. But
even misplaced balls. It may not be lost. It just may be in the next bunker, not the bunker you thought it went.
People don't know within 20 or 30 yards a lot of times where it went, especially beginners. And isn't this has been the holy grail of the ball industry, hasn't it, Keith? Some way to find your golf ball, that magic way to, my idea was to make them put some uranium in there and just use the Geiger counter. Certainly there's no downside to walking around with a sleeve of uranium golf balls in your pocket.
Well, there have been a number of different approaches to this, for sure. When you say the holy grail of the ball business, I would say, no, it's been the holy grail of the golfer community, but definitely not of the ball community, because they make money by replacing lost golf balls, right? Or damaged golf balls.
You could in theory probably charge more for a ball you can't lose, because you're going to be able to play it longer. Of course, you can still lose it in the water, but it's just one of those fantasy things like Dick Tracy and his flying magnetic space scoop. It's just you didn't think this day would ever come.
Well, and again, I think our major accomplishment will be when we bring the golf ball into the market in such a form and with performance where if you put it next to a conventional golf ball and had somebody hit it, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Right. But all the data is coming from one. Then it does become, Gary, to your point, a question of economics, because eventually, no matter how much data you're getting from this ball, or no matter how long the life of the battery is, the cover is going to wear, right? It's either you're going to hit a tree or a cart path, or it's just the durability that ultimately cast urethane and other cover materials go through, where it's got to be replaced. So if the electronic brain is costing you, pick a number, and depending upon what sensors and how precise you want things to be, you're talking about at least $20, and in some cases as much as $50 per ball.
Ooh.
All right. Yeah. So you don't want to be selling golf balls that are that pricey. What you want is for the value of the golf ball to accommodate that kind of cost structure. So that's where, again, the advantages, whether it's to the golf course that says, hey, we'll supply these golf balls to someone because we want them to get through that round a little bit faster, or it's a tournament where people want to play and they don't want foot wedges to go unnoticed, because this ball will measure every single movement, right, and know what has happened to it.
Can it keep score?
Yes. Yeah. Again, the auto scoring is really, really kind of interesting. And one of the places we're finding just a significant interest for that are putting courses, right? Whether it's outdoor or indoor, because part of it is they're trying to free up people's hands to carry around adult beverages. Um,
No.
and not have to have, you know, a card in their hand and a pen to try and keep score. And again, it's a little bit faster if your phone is keeping score for you because it's getting the data from the ball. But the other thing it does is it allows courses to actually create electronic leaderboards in the clubhouse that can see what everyone is doing on every single hole, right? So you can see, hey, Gary's on 14 and he's already, you know, 3 shots behind somebody else. So all of that kind of data and information, which is just, you know, part of the, if you will, the experience at a club, whether it's private, whether it's public, whether it's competition, or whether it's casual. It's just another layer of, we think, user experience that will enhance the overall golf experience and keep people wanting to play more golf, even if playing more golf means playing more with regular golf balls, but at least enjoying the times that they're experiencing the Genius Ball and wanting to come back and do it again.
Yeah, well, it'd be a great thing to have in scrambles where you see some team. There's always one team that's shooting 39 under, and you wonder, no matter how they maneuver their handicaps, is that possible?
It's always the last thing that comes in, right?
If you get 4 guys to agree that we're just going to write down scores to win the money, this is one way to stop that. I would think another thing that would be great, Keith, is the kind of data you're going to get from this ball. I would think instructors are going to be able to really use that indoors or outdoors with their students. They're going to get some additional data that probably is going to be helpful that they don't get off the launch monitor.
Well,
is there a value in having this system integrated into a driving range?
No. And I say that simply because we don't think that the use of golf balls at driving ranges puts them through such frequent impact and wear that the economics just are especially since there are such great launch monitors out there. You make a one-time purchase in you name the brand, sitting in a bay, and you're good to go, right? Whereas if you're hitting these golf balls, they're going to have to be recovered or replaced, and that just becomes
economically not feasible.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, there's again, I think there are a lot of places where we see some interesting value propositions that don't necessarily require people, again, to purchase an expensive golf ball. You go to a club and you want to practice on the green before you go out. These balls are not only capable of giving you all of your putting data, but they'll actually calculate stimp. So if you're a good golfer and you want to know how the greens are running that day, this will tell you. So that's kind of interesting. And we have had some interactions with some of the professional golfer instructors, particularly on the putting side, who have told us, look, when this is available, we're going to use this ahead of tournaments with our players because we want them to know just, what's the accuracy, what's the skid, what's the tempo that they're hitting the ball, and kind of get into a groove. And they can do that with this ball on the practice green ahead of a round, as opposed to having to be inside where you've got some very sophisticated equipment that will measure all of the things that you want to, but you can't bring that out onto the practice green.
I can picture getting some stats on my putting after a round, and I'm going to be like Charlie Brown listening to Lucy talk about his pitching stats, which are always terrible. And his line was, "Tell your stats to shut up."
Could be.
So when is this ball going to be available? And do you already have a smart course? Do you have a site in mind for a smart course? And what does all that involve?
Yeah. So the ball was, the development efforts were completed about a year ago. And we have been making plans for scaling the manufacturing to a commercial level, which meant that we had to do a little bit of market surveying to try and understand what scale was that going to need to be at? And we honestly don't have a complete answer because it's difficult to get people too excited until you can actually give them golf balls to play around with for a long time. And it's a little chicken and egg scenario. But having said that, we've got some idea as to what the reaction is going to be based on every demo that I've done over the last 6 months. I mean, whether it's for putting or chipping or somebody's thinking about it for their par 3 play course or whatever, if the word game changing doesn't come out in the conversation, it's a surprise because almost everyone views it that way. Now, again, how it ultimately takes off and which things are most interesting to people from the get-go is still to be determined. But we know that, for example, during the pandemic, the biggest selling golf product on Amazon, as I understand it, were at-home putting mats, right?
Oh.
Well, everybody that's got a putting mat now is going to want to try a Genius ball, so that not only are they seeing how they're putting, but they're learning a little bit more again about, how well can they control the speed of the putt, the line of the putt, the skid that takes place when they first impact it, where are they impacting the ball? All of that's going to be available right from the get-go. And so companies that do club fitting, including putters, we think are going to be interested in having the balls in their facilities so that they can find out, which putter seems to work best based on someone's grip, someone's stance, someone's foot positioning and all, in terms of, again, minimizing the chaos that occurs in that skid at the beginning of a putting stroke.
I would think somebody like Club Champion that does the high-end club fitting would be all over this, because this would really, it's more data for them and more way for them to convince somebody to buy a product.
Yeah. But to your question about the smart course, so one of the demonstrations that I did was to a group down in Florida called Lifestyle Management. And they operate a number of golf courses in the Naples, Fort Myers region. And Jimmy Lynn, who happens to be one of the owners, was immediately intrigued because he was just beginning to take his 18-hole golf course and add par 3 tee boxes to every hole.
Well, that's interesting.
That's genius.
Yeah. And so what he was thinking about was, you don't want people playing full hole distances and par 3 distances because they're going to get jammed up, right? One goes faster than the other. Yeah. His concept for the par 3 tee boxes was that late afternoon or even early evening, they would do basically, a shotgun type event a couple times a week where members could come out and they just send them out to holes, and at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, everybody would tee off from the par 3 and all move around the course and around the same pace. And he said, man, if we had this ball, he said, we could really start to do some fun things, like on every single hole, know whoever was closest to the pin at the end of the 18 holes, they get a free dinner, or, there's a monetary prize, or, something else. And so, and of course, no cheating, to your point about this.
Right? I don't think we really know how much cheating goes on in these events where there are prizes. I think, you've been in the same position. You're in a tournament and there's a long drive or close to the pin. It's funny how the last group through, somebody always seems to win that prize. Just coincidence.
Yeah. I've heard that from a number of people, Gary. Yeah. So it's funny that you say that. It must be true.
I think it is. Golfers are just as shady as everybody else in the world, except Congress.
So anyway, about a few weeks ago, after some fairly engaging discussion about what it would take, Lifestyle decided to proceed and pulled the trigger and said, we want to be the first. So they'll be finishing up their course modifications sometime in the fourth quarter. Our plan is to have our manufacturing line up and fully operational, debugged, and going full force around the same time. Our hope is that installing the mesh network, and I'll say, debugging, or at least working through whatever the challenges might be for the entire system to work properly, shouldn't take too long. But my guess is we're looking at sometime before the Masters to be able to really demonstrate that this is a concept that's got legs, and then have the balls in their hands and working, and having Jimmy explore all of the different opportunities that exist to gamify or to challenge or wager using that smart course approach.
Well, when you get this thing set up and ready for a demo,
We want to know.
I expect an invite, because I really would like to be smarter.
Well, there's no question that they're very interested at the club at Gateway in getting people there to see how it works once it's working.
Yeah, the merchandise show is too early, but you'll get. Yeah, really, I would. It doesn't matter when it is. I would fly down there to go check that out. That's a cool story.
Yeah,
I hope you'll have it ready before the Players Championship, and maybe have something in the Jacksonville area. That's just me. I'm hoping that.
What is going to be interesting once people have seen how it works, that it does work.
Yes.
And again, we have some conversations about how to manage the economics. See, the interesting thing is, if you said to a course, look, we'll provide you with golf balls so that your members or your customers don't need to buy golf balls. You've got the mesh network. You give them a ball when they check in to go out and play. Let them download the app. And then even if they hit it into the water, Gary, eventually they've probably got some divers that are going to bring it back out and turn it back in. And again, when the balls wear out, the covers wear out, they send them back to us and we put a new cover on it. The ball's brain will last for at least, we believe, 3 years. That's based on how many recharging cycles the battery will go through. So,
and you can certainly charge a premium price for a round of golf with this new technology, just so people can try it.
Well, and that's the other side of it, right? Which is to say, hey, if you wanted to go out and learn something about your game, strokes gained, strokes lost, remember, if it's capturing every single golf shot, then later on, and it's all cloud-based, right? So later on, you could go home, fire up your laptop or your tablet or your phone, and actually see the round replayed. You could see shot by shot what you did and say, okay, I should have, pulled out my 7-iron instead of my 6 here, or whatever it was that caused a particular shot to not go the way you wanted it to. So it's not just the data, it's being able to relive, if you will, a round of golf and look at what you did right, what you did wrong, think strategically, become a better caddy for yourself, right?
Yes.
Well, I can't wait till somebody else at the dinner table at the bar tries to relive his round of golf, showing it to me. It's like, no, I only want to relive my round. I don't want to relive your round. On the fourth hole, on my second ball, I don't get right to 18, but it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of us who love the technology and the data, and there's also a large section of people who really are just recreational golfers. They don't practice. They aren't going to take a lesson. They just want to go out, bat it around once a week, shoot what they shoot, and have a few drinks.
Right.
So it's not going to be for everybody, but the ball locating thing is really, I think there's a section of people who aren't going to care about the data. It's like, I want to find my ball. So that's a big selling point.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
Well, we wish you the best.
Before we wrap it up, Keith, I just want to tell you, OnCore is doing well. And I know this because last year I was playing in some interclub matches, and I happened to be using an OnCore ball, and somebody else in my group apparently also was and hadn't told me, and I wound up hitting his ball out of the rough on a hole. And after the fact, he's like, oh, I think that was my ball. Like, what do you mean? I'm playing an OnCore. He goes, Yeah, I am too. It's like you got two guys in the same group playing encore ball in club matches, lower handicap.
What's the chance of that?
You've definitely arrived. So good job.
I appreciate that. That's a great sign. It is interesting. We get a lot of people, now sending us all of a sudden their first hole in one or their best scorecard. We see a lot of golfers that are using the product, improving their games and really enjoying it, which again was the intent of the technology that we started out with, was to help golfers get better. I think our first tagline, which we still use occasionally, was "You just became a better golfer," right? And hopefully using both our conventional as well as this Genius ball contributes to reinforcing that tagline.
Well, I'll send you my scorecard because I was playing a singles match in our foursome against all three other guys at once. So it's match play. I hit the wrong ball. I lost the hole to three guys at once. So I was pretty happy that you're so popular.
Good. That's nice to hear.
Well, that's really some interesting stuff, Keith. Thanks for joining us today on the Golf Show 2.0. OnCore Golf. If you haven't heard about it, you should probably check it out. I can't wait till this becomes
reality.
Instead of science fiction, it's pretty close to being science facts. It sounds exciting, Keith.
Absolutely. Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to get on with you.